The other day, I happened to be in a Zoom room when an acquaintance of mine caught sight of me and called.
There, Apollodorus, wait for me, will you?
So I waited.
I was hoping to see you here, Apollodorus. I wanted to hear from the story of you at the party at Agathon, Socrates, Alcibiades, and the rest.
What are you talking about?
The time when they were all at Agathon's epic party. I heard from Aristides' servant who'd been talking to Cassandra when they went up to get water, and well, that and Cassandra's cousin Diotima appeared at the party. And so at Agathon's Symposium, you know what everybody said on the subject of love? That's what they said. Someone was telling me that you heard about it from Phoenix. He also said that you knew all about it.
Now, why on earth would she ask me about this?
Phoenix could not give a clear account of it, so you must tell me. You're in the best position to report on the speech of your friend Socrates, especially since you were at the party.
Well, your informant was rather confused if you think I attended that party.
Why, I thought you were.
Why would you think that, Glaucon? Is it my responsibility to know everything Socrates says and does?
Well, no,
Before I met Socrates, I thought I had achieved something. But I was running around in circles aimlessly in the most miserable state, just like you now. And I thought philosophy was the last thing I should be doing.
Can you tell me what happened at Agathon's party and who said what about love or not?
It was the first year of the plague, when Agathon won the prize with his first tragedy at the cyber city Dionysia. On the day after he won, Agathon held a virtual party to celebrate his victory.
Wait a second. I thought you weren't there. So who told you about it? Was it Socrates himself?
Oh, certainly not. It was actually the man who told Phoenix, someone called Eryximachus, a small man who never wore any shoes.
No shoes?
Certainly not. Anyway, he had been at the party, and there is no more devoted admirer of Socrates. He told me everything that was said and done at Agathon's party. Of course, I asked Socrates some questions afterwards about what I had heard from Eryximachus, and he confirmed what Eryximachus said.
Do tell me then. This Athenian Zoom room is convenient conversation between friends.
As Glaucon and I chatted online, we talked about the speeches given at the online party as Eryximachus remembered them and told them to me, with the result that I am quite well prepared to tell you what seemed to me particularly worth recording from the most memorable moments.
Wait, what seemed to you worth recording? What about...
But do you want to hear the story or not?
A story thrice removed from the truth. Well, it's better than no story at all. Yes, tell us what Eryximachus said about the partygoer's speeches about love.
Well, let me prepare to tell you the story.
Apollodorus, please do get on with it.
I shall begin at the beginning and try to tell you the whole story as I remember it. Now, Eryximachus said that he and Socrates happened to meet online when Socrates was fresh from the baths and wearing his sandals, which were two rare events for him. Eryximachus asked him where he was going, having got himself all dolled up. Now, the people attending the Zoom party were Agathon, the tragedian and host of the party, and Agathon's servant. Eryximachus, my dear friend and the guest of Socrates. Aristophanes, the great comic playwright. Dr. Eryximachus, who always offers sound medical advice and, on occasion, a prescription. Pausanias, Agathon's lover. Phaedrus, who led the discussion on love you heard so much about. And Socrates, the philosopher. And Socrates, the philosopher. And Socrates, the philosopher!
So I avoided the in-person celebrations yesterday, being afraid that the social distancing would be hard to maintain among the crush of Agathon's fan base. But I agreed I would come to his virtual party today, which is why I've beautified myself like this. But I don't want to go alone. How do you feel, Aristodemus, about coming with me to Agathon's online feast, even though you haven't been invited by the host?
I shall do whatever you say.
Come with me then, and we'll spoil the old saying by altering the words. We will make it say to good men's feasts, good men go unbidden.
If you let me tag along, you better decide what excuse you'll give, because I will not admit that I came uninvited. I'll say that I was invited by you.
We shall decide on our excuse together.
Aristodemus, how lucky. You are just in time for the party. If you have come for some other purpose, do postpone it. I texted you an invite to the party yesterday, but you never responded. How is it Socrates has not yet joined us?
Funny enough, Socrates invited me, but here I am without him.
I'm very glad you came, but where is the man?
He was just here. I myself wonder where he might be.
Servants, go to the Zoom waiting room and let Socrates in.
Socrates is here, but has withdrawn into his doorway and is just standing there. Though I have been sending him chats, he's not looking at the screen, so I can't see them.
How odd. Keep sending him chats.
Leave him alone. This is one of his habits. Sometimes he turns aside and stands still wherever he happens to be. He'll come in pretty soon. Just don't disturb him.
If you say so, then that's what we'll do. Now, servant, lay out the feast before our eyes. Put on the table whatever you like when no one is supervising you. Treat me and my guests as if you had invited us all to dinner at your home. If you look after us well, you will earn our thanks.
This is promises.
After this, they started virtually feasting, and still, Socrates did not come. Agathon kept trying to have him summoned, but Aristodemus would not allow it. After delaying for a little while in that habitual way of his, Socrates came to his camera.
Socrates, come closer to your camera so that I may enjoy the benefit of being in contact with that piece of wisdom which came into your mind in that doorway. Obviously, you are now in possession of the answer you were looking for. Otherwise, you would not have stopped looking.
It would be a happy state of affairs, Agathon, if wisdom were something that could flow between us through the screens from one who is full to one who is empty, like water flowing from one cup to an empty one. If that is how it is, then we shall get my fill from your abundant and beautiful wisdom. My own wisdom is certainly of an inferior sort, like a dream of doubtful reality, whereas yours is already brilliant, full of promise.
Socrates, you are being sarcastic. A little later on, you and I will each plead our claim to wisdom, and Dionysus will be our judge. But now, you must pay attention to your dinner before anything else.
After this, Socrates arranged himself and ate his dinner along with all the rest. And when they had poured libations and had sung in praise of the god and done all the customary things, they turned to the question of drinking. According to Aristodemus, Phaedrus spoke first, and with passion at Eryximachus' urging to praise love.
We have chosen to only drink as much as we want. I have a proposal about the kind of talk we might have.
Good idea.
Yes.
Yes.
Please explain more.
In truth, my suggestion comes from Phaedrus here. He just sent me a text about it. He is always complaining to me. Isn't it shocking, Eryximachus, that while some other gods have had hymns and paeans composed for them by the poets, not a single one of all the great poets of Athens, not our host Agathon, the greatest tragedian of our time, or his comic counterpart, Aristophanes, not a single one has composed a eulogy to the god of love despite his great antiquity and importance. Just consider for a moment those good sophists who write prose eulogies of heroes like Heracles, which is perhaps not very surprising. Yet I once came across a book by a learned man in which salt was the subject of extraordinary praise because of its usefulness. To think that people devote so much effort to the subject like salt, but no one to this day has undertaken to celebrate the great god love in the way he deserves. In this case, imitation is a form of flattery, for it seems to me that despite the way Phaedrus makes his point, it is valid. Since he is a good sport with a good point, I should very much like to gratify him. A tragic playwright's online party is certainly a fitting occasion for us all to pay honor to the god of love. Making speeches would pass the time and, in my expert medical opinion, help us digest dinner. I therefore propose that each of us should make a speech and praise love. Since Phaedrus is occupying the first place on the left and is also the originator of the subject, he should begin.
No one will vote against you, Eryximachus. I would hardly say no, since the only subject I can claim to know about is love. And the same is true of Agathon and Pausanias, and certainly true of Aristophanes, whose whole time is taken up with Dionysus and Aphrodite. In fact, it's true of everyone here. However, it is hardly fair for those of us who will be speaking last if those before us don't disappoint and speak well. But we shan't complain. Let Phaedrus go first. Speak in praise of love. Good luck to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Begin.
Yes, begin.
With the love.
Love is a great, honored God because he is the oldest of the gods. There's good evidence for this. Love has no parents. The poet Hesiod says that first chaos came into being, then there was broad-bosomed earth, the eternal firm foundations of all things, and love. The philosopher Parmenides also says of the origin of love, first of all gods was fashioned love. So it is widely agreed that love is the oldest of the gods. He is also the source of our greatest blessings. For what greater blessings can there be for a man than a lover who is himself virtuous? Those feelings which ought to be the lifelong guide of men cannot be implanted by anything else so well as they are by love.
Are you sure it's feelings that one implants into a lover?
Yes. Feelings of shame at dishonorable behavior and pride at honorable behavior. Without these things, it's not possible for a state or an individual to do any great work. If any man who is in love was revealed to be doing something dishonorable, he wouldn't find it as painful to be seen by his friends as he would to be seen by his beloved. If only an army consisted of pairs of lovers, there would be no better people to run their country, for they would avoid any act that brought disgrace and would compete with each other in winning honor. Homer describes a god breathing might into some of the heroes. In the same way, love provides from his own being this inspiration for those in love. Only those in love are prepared to die for one another. Alcestis was the only person willing to die for her husband. He was so noble that the gods sent back her soul from the underworld, and so they too pay particular honor to the courage that comes from love. Achilles is another example. When he learned that if he killed Hector to avenge his lover, he too would die, but if he did not kill him, he would return home and live to old age. Achilles dared to stand up for his lover and died for his sake. The gods honored Achilles for having such a high regard for his lover by sending him to the Isles of the Blessed. Eryximachus, you know that the gods particularly honor the kind of excellence that comes from passionate love. These are the cases where the beloved shows his devotion to his lover rather than the other way round. The gods appreciate and reward these more because a lover has a god within him. He is thus more akin to the divine than the beloved. This is why the gods paid more honor to Achilles than to Alcestis. These are my reasons for saying that love is the oldest of gods, most worthy of honor, and most powerful in helping men through life and death.
It seems to me, Phaedrus, that our subject has not been set out in the right way. I mean that we have simply been told to deliver a eulogy on love, just like that. If there was only one love, it would be all very well, but in fact, that it is not the case. Love is not single. And that being so, it is better to state first of all which sort of love should be praised. I shall therefore try to put the right by first explaining which love is to one to be praised, and then by praising God in the way he deserves. We all know that Aphrodite is always accompanied by love. If there was only a single Aphrodite, there would only be a single love. But there are two Aphrodites, there must be two loves. One, older obviously, is the daughter of Uranus and had no mother, and we call her heavenly Aphrodite. The younger is a child of Zeus and Dione, and we call her common Aphrodite. It follows that the love who works with the younger Aphrodite should correctly be called common love, and the other heavenly love. The love who belongs to common Aphrodite is truly common and engages in his activities as opportunity offers. This is the love that inferior people experience. In this first place, men of this sort, like Aristophanes, love women quite as much as boys. And secondly, their bodies, like Eryximachus, are more than their souls. And thirdly, they are like Aristophanes, the stupidest people possible, since they have regard only for the act itself and not care whether it is rightly done or not. Hence, their activity is governed by chance and as likely to be bad as good. The reason that the common Aphrodite is far younger than the other Aphrodite, and because of her parentage, she has characteristics of both the male and female. However, the love who accompanies the heavenly goddess is the love of young men. And that goddess is older and entirely free from wantonness. Those who are inspired by this love, like Agathon, incline to the male, preferring what has by nature more vigor and intelligence. Even among men like myself who love younger members of their own sex, it is possible to recognize those who are motivated purely by this heavenly love, and that they do not love young men before the age when their intelligence begins to develop. I believe that those who want to wait then to embark on love affair are prepared to spend their whole life in this individual to live in partnership with him. Phaedrus, this is my contribution on the subject of love that I could best offer on the spare of the moment.
That's my man. He's so smart.
Thank you, Bunny Low. Perhaps the comedian thinks that he can offer or deliver a better serious speech.
Dr. Eryximachus, you are just the person to either put a stop to my hiccups or to speak instead of me until I stop myself.
I will do both, Aristophanes. I will speak in your place, and you can speak in mine when you have recovered. If in the course of my speech you hold your breath for a while and your hiccups stop, all well and good. But if that fails, Gargle with water. If the hiccups still persist, find something to tickle your nose with and make yourself sneeze. If you do this once or twice, even the most obstinate case will stop.
Start speaking now, and I shall do what you say.
I shall try to give a proper conclusion to Pausanias' speech, as he made a good start, but failed to give a good conclusion. Pausanias is right in distinguishing two kinds of love, yet love influences all things and their responses, not only human souls and their response to physical beauty. Love pervades virtually everything that exists, both human and divine. This is something I have observed in my medical profession. It is the nature of bodies to hold two kinds of love. In medicine, we agree that bodily health and bodily sickness are two different and unlike things. And when things are unlike, the objects of their love and desire are also unlike. Therefore, love in a healthy body is unlike love in an unhealthy body. Pausanias suggested it was right to gratify good men and wrong to gratify the immoral. It is also right to gratify the good and healthy parts of a body and wrong to gratify the bad and diseased parts. In brief, medicine is the knowledge of the influence of love on the body in respect to its repletion and depletion. A skillful practitioner of medicine must be able to distinguish the right from the wrong kind of love. They must know how to bring about change so as to convert the one into the other. And they must know how to implant love where it is required and remove it from where it is not. They must be able to reconcile the most hostile elements, the extreme opposites in the body, and make them love each other. The same sort of reconciliation of opposites can be applied to music. Heraclitus said that the universe is in agreement while being in disagreement with itself, like the harmony of the taut bow. While it sounds absurd, perhaps what he meant was that harmony is created out of elements that were originally in disagreement, but were brought into agreement through the art of music. Excuse you. It is impossible to create harmony where instead of agreement, there is disagreement. The same is true of rhythm. Music creates agreement by implanting mutual love and unanimity between different elements and is, therefore, the knowledge of the influence of love. As when employing rhythm and harmony in real life to discern the influence of love, there is need of a skillful practitioner. And we return again to the theme of well-ordered individuals. Or those who will become well-ordered with love, who should be gratified. Their love is the heavenly love that comes from Urania, but the other love from Polymnia should be enjoyed with caution, so no licentiousness is implanted. Both kinds of love are present in all things human as well as divine. Even the seasons have both kinds of love, and when they achieve harmony, they bring abundance and well-being. Furthermore, divination and all matters that are the province of seers bring about good relations between gods and humans because it knows which love is in people's lives and safeguards or cures it. This is how great, how mighty, how complete the power of love is. It is he who enables us to associate and be friends with one another and with the gods our masters. Well now, I too may have passed over many things in my praise of love, but if so, it was not deliberate. If I have omitted anything, it is up to you, Aristophanes, to fill the gap. However, if you have it in mind to praise the god in some other way, then proceed and praise him since you have got rid of your hiccups.
Doctor, the hiccups have stopped. Though not before I applied the smoothing cure. It surprises me that the good order of one's body desires the kind of tickling and noises that make up a sneeze. When I resorted to sneezing, the hiccups stopped immediately.
Watch what you are saying, my dear Aristophanes. If you play the fool beforehand, you force me to look out for more jokes during your speech as well, when you could speak without interruption.
Well said, Eryximachus. And please forget I spoke. There is no need for you to be on the lookout because I am anxious enough on my own behalf about what I am going to say. I intend to take a very different line than you and Pausanias. It is my belief that people have entirely failed to understand the power of love. For if they understood, they would have erected the greatest temples and altars to him and would offer up the largest sacrifices. As it is, nothing of the sort is done for him, though he deserves it more than anyone else. I'm going to try to explain his power to you all, and then you, in your turn, can teach everyone else.
By all means, enlighten us.
Once upon a time, our anatomy was quite different from what it is now. There were not merely two sexes, as there are now, male and female, but three. And the third was a combination of the other two. This sex itself has disappeared, but its name, androgynous, survives. As that time, the androgynous sex was distinct in form and name, having physical features from both the male and the female, but only the name now exists.
And where did all of these features fit on these original humans, my dear Aristophanes?
The form of every person was completely round, with back and sides making a circle, and with 4 arms, the same number of legs, and 2 faces exactly alike set on a round neck. There was 1 head for the 2 faces, which looked opposite ways. 4 ears, 2 sets of genitals, and everything else, as you might guess from these particulars. They walked about upright, as we do today, backwards and forwards as they pleased. Whenever they wanted to move fast, they pushed off from the ground and quickly wheeled over and over in a circle with their 8 limbs like 2 acrobats who perform cartwheels by whirling around with their legs straight out. The reason for the sexes being as they were, and 3 in number, is that originally the male was the offspring of the sun, the female of the earth, and the androgynous of the moon, which shares the nature of both sun and earth.
This is quite an interesting story which you are describing to us, yet I fail to see how you will bring us back to our topic of discussion.
All will become clear with time. Now, these 3 sexes were awesome in strength and might, and their ambition was great as well. They tried to make an ascent to heaven in order to attack the gods. Zeus and the other gods deliberated about what they should do, but found no solution. They could hardly kill them and annihilated the whole race with thunderbolts as they had the giants, for then they would be putting an end also to the worship and sacrifices they received from human beings. Yet neither could they put up with their insolence. After much hard thought, Zeus delivered his conclusion. "I think I have a plan," Zeus said, "that will allow humans to exist, but at the same time put an end to their outrageous behavior by making them weaker. For the present, I shall split each one of them in half, and that will make them weaker. And at the same time, they will be more useful to us by being greater in number. They will walk upright on 2 legs, and if they persist in their insolence and refuse to keep quiet, I will split them in half again, and they will have to hop around on 1 leg only." So, saying, he proceeded to cut everyone in 2. After the original nature of every human being had been severed in this way, the 2 parts longed for each other and tried to come together again. They threw their arms around another with close embrace, desiring to be reunited, and they began to die of hunger and general inactivity because they refused to do anything at all as separate beings. Whenever one of the two died and the other was left alone, the survivor would look for another mate to embrace. So it is that ever since that far-off time, love of one person for another has been inborn in human beings, and its role is to restore us to our ancient state by trying to make unity out of duality and to heal our human condition. We are all continually searching for our other half. Agathon, it is clear that the soul of each wants something else which it cannot put into words, but it feels instinctively what it wants and expresses it in riddles. If the fire god Hephaestus, welding tools in hand, were to stand over a couple like Agathon and Pausanias when they are laying together and ask, "What is it that you two want from each other?" they would be unable to answer. Suppose he were to ask them again. "Is this your desire to be always together, as close as possible, and never parted from each other day or night? If this is what you want, I am ready to join you together and fuse you until instead of two, you become one." We know that no one who heard these words would deny them or would admit to wanting anything else. The reason is that our nature was originally like this, and we were a whole, and the desire to and pursuit of the whole is called love. In the past, as I say, we were one, but at the present time, through our wrongdoing, we have been made by Zeus to live apart. And if we are not well behaved towards the gods, the fear is that we may be split up once more and go around sawn in half along the line of the nose. For this reason, we should all promote reverence towards the gods in all things so as to avoid the fate we do not want and obtain the one that we do want, taking love as our guide and our leader. For if we become friends and make our peace with the God, then we shall find and join our own particular beloved, which happens rarely at this present time, especially given the need to stay socially distanced. If we are to praise the God who brings this about, then it is love that by rights we should praise. It is love who, in the pandemic present, confers on us the greatest benefit by leading us to that which is nearest to ourselves, even if we are not in the same location. It is love who, for the future, gives us high hopes that if we show reverence to the gods, we will restore us to our original state, heal us, put us physically back in touch, and make us blessed and happy.
What a speech, Aristophanes.
Oh, thank you. I only hope Eryximachus won't treat my speech as comedy and take it that I am alluding to Pausanias and Agathon. It may be that those two really do belong to this category and are both wholly male in origin, but I'm actually talking about men and women everywhere when I say that if we were to achieve that perfect love in which each of us meets his own beloved and so returns to his original state, then the human race would be happy. As I asked, please do not treat it funny. Let us listen to what all the remaining speakers have to say, or rather, the other two. Only Agathon and Socrates are left.
I shall heed what you say. In fact, I found your speech most enjoyable. If I were not well aware that Socrates and Agathon are experts on the subject of love, I should be very worried in case they would find nothing to say in view of the wide variety of things that have been said already. As it is, though, I am quite confident.
Socrates will sure find some substance in it. Hope to be uplifting.
The both of you speak this way from the safety of having given your speeches. If you were where I am now, or rather where I shall be perhaps when Agathon has also made a splendid speech, You would be worried indeed, and in the state of panic I'm now in.
Your praise, Socrates, has a wicked purpose. You want to make me lose my head at the thought of the audience having high expectations of a great speech from me.
What head do you have to lose?
You two have succeeded in shaking my confidence a little against my best wishes. I need to first regain my composure before continuing.
You hardly need reassurance. I saw your confidence yesterday when you went on the stage with the actors and looked straight ahead. And that was before a huge public audience when your play was about to be performed too. So, surely an unfazed you is going to give us a speech with just a few of us.
Yeah, but a small, thoughtful audience is far more terrifying than a large, thoughtless one.
Well, if you did come across people who were intelligent, you might well feel too ashamed in front of them if you thought perhaps you were doing something wrong. What do you say?
Agathon, don't answer Socrates' question. He does not care if we hear everyone's speech on love so long as he has someone to talk to, especially someone good looking.
Well, then, I will start my eulogy on love.
Go on. We're waiting.
Well, I wish first to explain how my speech should proceed, and then to proceed with my speech. The proper way to give a eulogy is to describe first their nature and then the nature of the good things of which they are the source. And this is what I will do. Earlier speakers like Aristophanes seem to have eulogized the good things that come from love, but not love himself. No one has given proper testament to his nature. He is much grander than we have credited him to be thus far. Among all gods, he is the happiest. Among all gods, he is the most beautiful. And among all gods, he is the most good. Phaedrus, allow me to make a correction. Love is not the oldest, but the youngest of the gods. Love always consorts with the young, like with like. As the old saying goes. His youth is eternal on account of his speed that outstrips old age and time. Love is tender as well. As Pausanias knows, love makes his home in the soul. Love is just and virtuous. He does no injustice upon man nor God. Whatever love does, he does not do by force. As for bravery against love, not even Ares can stand firm, for Ares is enraptured with Aphrodite. And finally, love is a great inspirer. He persuades men to become lovers, poets, workers of passion in his name. Even among the gods, it was under love's guidance and desire that Apollo found archery and medicine, Hephaestus his metalwork, and Zeus his governance. Before love, their interests were not established, and they did terrible things to one another in the name of love's predecessor, necessity. But ever since this God was born, from the love of the beautiful, every good thing for gods and men has come into existence. So it is my belief that love is not only supreme in beauty and goodness himself, but it is also the source of beauty and goodness in all other things. It is he who creates peace among humankind, windless calm on the open sea, and sleep in sorrow. What good comes from the world comes from love himself. Thank you. Thank you.
Agathon, wonderful.
Oh, wonderful indeed.
Oh, thank you. A eulogy you've asked of me, and a eulogy I have given.
Very eloquent. Although, what else should we have expected of a man of passion such as yourself? No pre-performance anxiety, no gaping ego ready to be fed. Just a beautiful man.
I know it's difficult to suggest this of you, Aristophanes, and it's against their nature, but maybe I could be spared your nonsense for a while to recuperate from your ceaseless remarks.
Oh. Fine.
May speak for us all. How can I or anyone else not be left speechless when he has to follow such pure words of beauty? The beginning was captivating, but his final sentence truly brought to life the language he was speaking. It truly stunned every ear in the room. So I must say that I cannot even follow such words with a speech to meet the standards near as fine as he did. And I'm a fool to even consider...
Socrates, please, I was just about to say...
As I was saying, I am a fool not to see that my error was to agree for Agathon to go first in delivering a eulogy of love. Now, I believe myself to be an expert on the subject of love, despite, as it has come to surface, not being an expert like Agathon on the subject of composing a eulogy on love.
An expert is a bit of a stretch.
No, I was under the impression that I was to speak on the subject of love, the foundation of the word, and its colorful background. But Agathon has shown that that is not how a eulogy is delivered.
Socrates, your theory on the subject is appreciated, but I think we have covered all we need to hear from one party.
It's all in how you speak and the confidence you use, is it not? The words spoken don't really matter at all. They don't have any truth to them as long as you smile as you speak. The words don't matter and the truth holds no power.
My words are truth. I do not lie to the faces before me. I have given my guests a speech on love, and I have spoken nothing but the truth, Socrates.
I would not dare question your words, Agathon. I just stated that we would never know if you lied or not because of the confidence of the words you speak. I mean, I think we can all agree that your proposal was not for us to praise love, but we should give the appearance of doing so, just as you gave the appearance that you knew what you were speaking about a moment ago.
Socrates, you can be so funny. You should get another drink and move on to enjoying love rather than talking about its deeper meaning.
Okay, and yes, another round of drinks. That would be perfect for everyone to sip as I share the true meaning of love. When you all attributes of various qualities of love, you go through all the stories that are told about him and then declare that he is like this or like that, and is a source of physical good or not in order to make him appear the paragon of beauty or goodness. This is obviously effective in the case of the ignorant who only see good-looking faces, but surely not for those here who seek a deeper experience. But I must try to seek the strength to tell you the truth about love from a truthful point of view, though not in competition with your speeches. I don't dare question the good words spoken before me. I mean, after all, this is just a party, right? Phaedrus, you might find out whether there is any call for a speech that entails listening to the truth about love, spoken in whatever words and phrases happen to come into my head at the time. I take note from Agathon and just speak with such confidence that you will not know if I am truthful or just persuasive.
Speech! Speech! Speech!
Speech! Go on, speak.
Sir, you have us all intrigued now. It would be a dishonor to us all if you did not share what wisdom you hold in that head.
Okay, before I begin, may I ask Agathon a few trivial questions so that I can get some agreement on some points and on the strength to build a rebuttal to his speech?
Do as you want.
Agathon, I like the way you began your speech when you said you were first to demonstrate what kind of being love is, and then to proceed to his qualities and characteristics of activity. I can say I do approve of those words.
Well, thank you. I am glad we can finally find some common ground.
But since you already described in magnificent style what he is like, Please elaborate just one thing for me. Is love such that he is love of something, or is he love of nothing? I don't mean of as in the question, is love the child of some particular mother or father?
I don't think I would say it is.
Or suppose if I asked you about the essential meaning of the word father and whether father was the father of love or something or not. I assume you would repeat that father was the father of a son or a daughter. Isn't that so?
Why, yes. I would follow your question with such answer.
And you would in the same say the way you would say in the same way of his mother, would you not? So okay, I figured so. So what about the essential meaning of brother? Is brother a brother of something, or is he not?
Of a brother or a sister? Yes, of course. I don't see the meaning of this question as it is the same as before. A love of a love is whatever the title, Socrates.
Okay, then I can apply the same test to love. Is love love of something, or is it love of nothing?
I feel you have lost me in my own words, Socrates. I don't think I know what you are asking.
Okay, keep this in mind. Remembering what it is that love is love of. And for now, tell me this. Does love desire the thing which he is love of or not?
Certainly love desires what it loves.
And does he desire and love it more when he has it in his possession or when he does not?
Probably more so when he does not.
Now, instead of saying probably, consider whether isn't it necessarily true that love is to desire what it lacks, or, for you to better grasp, there is no desire if there is no lack. That seems to me an inescapable conclusion, Agathon. Do you agree?
I would say I have to agree.
Splendid. So a man who was tall would not wish to be tall, or a man who was strong, would he wish to be strong?
No, we have all found agreement in that being impossible. He does not lack such needs, so there is no desire to obtain such wish.
You're catching on quick. So you see someone who has these attributes would not be lacking in them and therefore not desire them?
Why do I feel we have just had the same conversation 3 times?
Why do I feel like I just watched the same scene 3 times?
Okay. So suppose that a man who was already strong also wished to be strong, or a fast runner also wished to be fast, or a healthy man to be healthy. They still would desire for what they have. In these and all similar cases, you might perhaps imagine that people who are like this and have these particular attributes also desire to have the attributes they already possess, wanting their ouzo and drinking it too, if you will.
But why would one desire what they already possess?
Because if you think about it, it must be that what they really wish for is to continue having possession of that they desire. As in, having it now does not mean that you will have it tomorrow.
To remind oneself to appreciate what they have as it can vanish in the blink of an eye.
Exactly. When one says, I desire what I already have, we must consider whether they wish to obtain what they already have, or do they wish to continue to have the thing that they desire into the future?
I have to say, once again, I agree with you.
Me too.
So he desires for his future self to have that his current self already possesses. Isn't this equivalent to loving that thing which is not yet available and which one does not have yet? He's not his future self, and his future self may or may not have what his current self has. Is this not the same as desiring what you lack without lacking it?
Certainly.
Then everyone who feels desire desires what is not in his possession or presence, so that what he does not have, or what he is not, or what he lacks, those are the sorts of things that are the objects of desire and love. Isn't this so?
Certainly.
Okay, well, so now to sum up our conclusion so far. First, love is of something. And secondly, of something that he lacks.
Yes.
On this basis, please recall what I said and what you said in your speech. I think you said something like that the interests of the gods were established by the reason of their love of beautiful things, for there is no love of ugly things. Didn't you say something like that?
Yes, I did.
Unreasonably enough, Agathon. And if this is the case, then surely love is love of beauty and not of ugliness. We've already agreed that love is what he lacks and does not possess.
Yes.
Then the conclusion is that what love lacks and does not have is beauty. Do you call a thing beautiful which lacks beauty and does not possess it in any respect?
Certainly not.
Then if this is so, do you still say that love is beautiful?
Socrates, it rather looks as though I understood nothing of what I was saying at the time.
You spoke very well, Agathon. Just one more small thing. Doesn't what is good also seem beautiful to you?
Yes.
So if love is lacking in what is beautiful, and what is good is beautiful, then he will also be lacking in what is good.
Socrates, I cannot argue against you, so let it be as you say.
There is no difficulty in arguing against me, beloved Agathon. What you can't argue against is the truth.
Socrates, can you just...
But it is time that I stop asking you questions. Now, I shall recount to you a discourse I had about love that I once heard given by a woman from Manitia called Diotima. She was an expert on that subject and many other subjects too. There was one question in particular. It was before the plague. It was she who taught me the whole subject of love.
And
it is the things that she had to say about it that I shall try to recount to you, starting as best I can from the conclusions that Agathon and I reached together, but speaking now on my own as best I can. As you demonstrated, Agathon, one should first define who love is and what he is like before talking about his characteristic activity. I think it will be easiest to proceed as Diotima did with me on that occasion, by question and answer. I said much the same sort of things that Agathon did. He said to me just now that love was the great God, that he was the love of the beautiful. And Diotima set about refuting me with the same arguments that I just used against you, Agathon, demonstrating that according to my own account, love was neither beautiful nor good.
And I protested.
What do you mean, Diotima? Are you actually saying love is ugly and bad?
Watch what you say. Do you really think that if something is not beautiful, it has to be ugly?
Yeah, I certainly do.
yeah, you certainly do what, Socrates?
He's having another one of his doorway spells, but this time in front of the camera. Apollodorus is never going to believe this.
I believed every word.
And do you suppose that something that is not wise is ignorant? Have you not noticed that there is something in between wisdom and ignorance?
And what is that?
Correct belief. I'm talking about having a correct belief without being able to give a reason for it. Don't you realize that this state cannot be called knowing? For how can it be knowledge if it lacks reason? And it is not ignorance either. For how can it be ignorance if it has hit upon the truth? Correct belief clearly occupies just such a middle state between wisdom and ignorance.
That's true.
Don't then insist that what is not beautiful has to be ugly and what is not good has to be bad. Similarly with love. When you yourself admit that love is not good and not beautiful, that is no reason for thinking he has to be ugly and bad. He is something between the two.
Surely everyone agrees that he is a great God.
By everyone, do you mean all who know, or do you include those who are ignorant?
I mean, absolutely everyone.
How could love be acknowledged as a great God by those who say he is not a God at all, like you and I? Answer me this, then. Don't you say that all gods are happy and beautiful? Would you go so far as to say that any God was not?
No, by Zeus, I would not.
And by the happy, do you mean those who are in possession of what is good and beautiful?
Certainly.
Yet in the case of love, You have agreed that it is through his lack of good and beautiful things that he desires those very things he lacks.
Yes, I have.
So how could one be a God who has no portion of what is beautiful or good?
Not possible, as it now appears.
Do you see then that you do not believe that love is a God?
In that case, what might love be? Is he immortal?
No.
What then?
Something in between mortal and immortal. A great spirit. All spirits are intermediate between God and mortal.
What is the function of a spirit?
Interpreting and conveying all that passes between gods and humans. From humans, petitions and sacrificial offerings, and from gods, instructions and the favors they return. Spirits, being intermediary, fill the space between the other two, so that all are bound together into one entity. You get it?
I'm still confused. What does it mean?
It is by means of spirits that all divination can take place. The whole craft of seers and priests, with their sacrifices, rites and spells, and all prophecy and magic. Deity and humanity are completely separate, but through the mediation of spirits, all converse in communication from gods to humans. Waking and sleeping is made possible. The man who is wise in these matters is a man of the spirit, whereas the man who is wise in a skill or manual craft, which is a different sort of expertise, is materialistic. These spirits are many and of many kinds, and one of them is love.
Well, who are his mother and father?
That is quite a long story, but I will tell you all the same. When Aphrodite was born, all the gods held a feast. One of those present was Poros. When the feast was over, Pinea, who was poor, came begging, and she stood by the door. Poros got drunk on the nectar. Having wandered into the garden of Zeus, Poros was overcome with drink and went to sleep. Then Pinea, who herself had no resources, thought of a scheme to have a child by Poros. Accordingly, she lay down beside him and became pregnant with a son. Love. Because love was conceived during Aphrodite's birthday feast, and because he is, by his nature, a lover of the beautiful, and Aphrodite is beautiful, he has become her follower and attendant. However, since he is the son not only of Poros, but also of Pinea, he is in this position. He is always poor and far from being the tender and a beautiful creature that most people imagine, because he is his mother's son. Want is his constant companion. On the other hand, he also resembles his father, scheming to get what is beautiful and good, a cunning hunter, always contriving some trick or another,
An eager searcher after knowledge.
Too resourceful. His nature is neither that of an immortal nor that of a mortal, but in the course of a single day, he will live and flourish when he has the resources. Then after a time, he will start to fade away, only to come to life again through that which he has inherited from his father. Yet in his resources always slip through his fingers. He is always midday between rich and destitute, just as he is between wisdom and ignorance.
What is the point? I need an interpreter to tell me.
The truth of the matter is this. No God pursues wisdom or desires to be wise, because gods are wise already, and no one who is wise already pursues wisdom. But neither do ignorant people pursue wisdom or desire to be wise. For the problem of ignorance is this, that someone who is neither fine and good nor wise is still quite satisfied with himself. No one desires what he does not think he lacks.
But then who are those who pursue wisdom, Diotima, if they are neither the wise nor the ignorant?
Even a child would know the answer to this by now. Okay. It is those who are in between, and love is one of them. For wisdom is the most beautiful thing, and love is love of the beautiful. So love must be a philosopher, and a philosopher is in the middle state between a wise man and an ignorant one. The reason for this too lies in his parentage. He has a father who is wise and resourceful, and a mother who is neither. This then is the nature of that particular spirit. But there was nothing surprising in the view you held yourself about the nature of love. Judging from what you say, I think you believed that love was that which is loved, not that which loves. This is the reason why love appeared to you to be supremely beautiful. But in fact, the one which is really beautiful and delicate, flawless, and endowed with every blessing is the beloved object, while the one which loves is by contrast of an entirely different character, such as I have just described.
If love is as you say, what need does he supply in the lives of people?
That is the next thing I will try to teach you, Socrates. I have just described love's nature and parentage, right? He is in love with beautiful things, according to you. But what if someone asked us, what does it mean to say that love is love of beautiful things? Or, to put it more clearly, what does the lover of beautiful things actually desire?
Possess them.
But your answer raises yet another question. What will he gain by possessing beautiful things?
I cannot give a ready answer to that.
Well, suppose one changed the question and asked about the good instead of the beautiful. Come on, Socrates. What does the lover of good things actually desire?
To possess the good things.
And what will he gain if he possesses them?
That is an easier question. He will be happy.
Yes. The happy are happy through the possession of good things, and there is no need to ask further why anyone wishes to be happy. Now, then, I shall speak more clearly. All human beings are pregnant, Socrates, in the body and in the soul. And when we reach maturity, it is natural that we desire to give birth. It is not possible to give birth in what is ugly, only in the beautiful. I say that because the intercourse of a man and a woman is a kind of giving birth. It is something divine. This process of pregnancy and procreation, it is an aspect of immortality in the otherwise mortal creature, and it cannot take place in what is discordant. Now, the ugly is not in accord with anything divine, whereas the beautiful accords well. So at this birth, beauty takes on the roles of Fate and Eleuthaia, the goddess of childbirth. For this reason, whenever the pregnant being approaches the beautiful, it is in a favorable mood. It melts with joy, gives birth, and procreates. In the face of ugliness, however, it frowns and contracts with pain and shriveling up. It fails to procreate, and it holds back its offspring in great suffering. This is the reason why, for a pregnant being now ready to give birth, there is much excitement at the presence of the beautiful, because its possessor will deliver the pregnant one from great pain. For the object of love is not, as you think, simply the beautiful.
Is it then procreating and giving birth to the beautiful?
It certainly is.
All right, but why is the object of love procreation?
Because procreation is a kind of everlastingness and immortality for the mortal creature as far as anything can be. If the object of love is indeed everlasting possession of the good, as we have already agreed, it is immortality together with the good that must necessarily be desired. Hence, it must follow that the object of love is also immortality.
Well, how can that be?
Mortal nature seeks to be immortal, but is always changing in the body and in the soul. A soul's habits, beliefs, desires, fears, memories, none of these things ever remain constant in a person. but are always coming into being while others pass away. Knowledge leaves us. Forgetting is the loss of knowledge, and revising by implanting a fresh memory in place of the one that is departing preserves our knowledge so that it seems to be the same. Just as you have revisited or revised this scene by implanting this fresh memory of our past meeting in place of the memory that is departing, and in so doing, you are preserving that knowledge so that it seems to be the same.
Is that what's happening?
In this way, everything mortal is preserved, not by remaining entirely the same forever, which is the mark of the divine, but by leaving behind another new thing of the same kind in the place of what is growing old and passing away. What is mortal partakes of immortality, but what is immortal does so differently. Hence, everything values its own offspring for the sake of immortality.
Really?
Just look at humankind's love of honor, desire to become famous, and to have glory for all time. For this, they are prepared to run great risks, spend money, endure any kind of suffering, even die in a cause. Do you suppose that Achilles would have sacrificed his life to avenge his lover if he had not thought that the memory of his virtue would be immortal? These are aspects of the mystery of love that perhaps you too, Socrates, when you are dead and gone, might be initiated to.
I do not like that you presume my initiation into these aspects.
Well, then, for this final initiation and revelation, to which all this has been merely prelude, I am not sure if you have the capability.
Well, then it must be a complicated initiation, then.
I will do my very best to explain it to you. Just try to follow, please. A person who would set out on this path in the right way must begin in youth by directing his attention to beautiful bodies. If his guide is leading him aright, he should fall in love with the body of one individual only, and there procreate beautiful discourse. Then he will realize that the beauty of any one body is closely akin to that of any other body, and that if what is beautiful in form is to be pursued, it is folly not to regard the beauty in all bodies as one and the same. When he has understood this, he should slacken his intense passion for one body, despising it and considering it a small thing, and become a lover of all beautiful bodies.
Yes, many bodies have beauty, yet what is truly beautiful about the person is the soul.
Exactly. If therefore someone's soul is good, even if his physical attraction is slight, that will be enough for him, and he will love and care for that person and seek out and give birth to the kind of discourse that will make young men better people. As a consequence, he will be compelled to contemplate the beautiful as it exists in human practices and laws, to see that the beauty of it all is of one kind, and to realize that what is beautiful in a body is trivial by comparison.
So love cannot be anything of the physical.
Well, sort of. After this, his guide must lead him to contemplate knowledge in its various branches, so that he can see beauty there too. And looking at what is now a wide range of beauty, he is no longer slavishly content with the beauty of any one particular thing, such as the beauty of a young boy or some other person, and will not become petty and small-minded through this kind of servitude. Instead, he will turn towards the vast sea of the beautiful, and while contemplating it, he will give birth to many beautiful discourses and thoughts, and a boundless love of wisdom, until there, strengthened and invigorated, he discerns a unique kind of knowledge, which is knowledge of a beauty whose nature I will now describe. It exists on its own, single in substance and everlasting. All other beautiful things partake of this. Now, but in such a way that when they come into being or die, the beautiful itself does not become greater or less in any respect. or undergo any change. Now, whenever someone starts to ascend from the things of this world, that's
like ascend a ladder.
Just sure, if that metaphor helps you understand. Okay. When someone starts to ascend from the things of this world through loving boys in the right way and begins to discern that beauty, he is almost in reach of the goal. And the correct way for him to go or be led by another to the things of love is to begin from the beautiful things in this world and using these as steps to climb ever upwards for the sake of that other beauty, going from 1 to 2, and from 2 to all beautiful bodies, and from beautiful bodies to beautiful practices, and from beautiful practices to beautiful kinds of knowledge, and from beautiful kinds of knowledge, finally to that particular knowledge, which is knowledge solely of the beautiful itself, so that at last he may know what the beautiful itself really is. Okay, that is the life which most of all a human being should live, in the contemplation of beauty itself.
I do contemplate beauty.
No, you contemplate beautiful things. If ever you see that beauty, he will not seem to you to be comparable with gold or those beautiful young men who now drive you and many others to distraction. If only you could see your beloveds and be with them all the time, you would be prepared. If only it were possible to go without food and drink and do nothing but gaze at them and be with them. What then do we suppose it would be like for someone actually to see the beautiful itself, separate, clear and pure, unsullied by the flesh or by the rest of our mortal dross, but to perceive the beautiful itself, single in substance and divine? Do you think that a person who directs his gaze to that object and contemplates it with that faculty by which it has to be viewed and stays close to it has a poor life?
I suppose such a life would not be very fulfilling.
Do you not reflect that it is there alone when he sees the beautiful with that by which it has to be viewed, that he will give birth to true virtue? Okay, he will give birth not to mere images of virtue, but to true virtue, because it is not an image that he is grasping, but the truth. When he has given birth to and nurtured true virtue, it is possible for him to be loved by the gods and to become, if any human can, immortal himself. Whoosh.
Well, that's what Diotima said, and I wholeheartedly believe her. And since I believe, I am trying to persuade everyone else in the attainment of this goal, because human nature could not easily find, we need to find a better helper. And what I'm trying to tell you is that that's what it would be, right? We can find no better helper. For this reason, I declare that every man should honor love. And I myself honor the study of love and its practice to an exceptional degree. I urge everyone else to do likewise. And now and ever, I praise the power and bravery of love as best I can. So, Phaedrus, consider this speech, or this memory, if you will, as my eulogy to love, or whatever else you please to call it.
Good evening, gentlemen. Am I allowed in? Agathon, dear friend, don't be shy. I brought this wonderful smelling thing for you. I'm apparently a little late to the party, but it doesn't look like much of one. You better get drinking with me.
Welcome, friend. You look like you've already had a busy night. We're glad you're here. Come closer to the camera.
Oh, excuse me. Here's this crown.
Oh. That would be a lovely gift if I could receive it in person. And as I say, it's the thought that counts.
Socrates, I didn't know you'd be here. Luckily for you, you have the chance to see me in my best clothes.
Agathon, will you tell your friend to leave me alone? His presence is insulting, and his obsession with being loved is annoying.
Now, Socrates, I've given you so many chances, and you've wasted all of them. Now, these flowers are really for Mr. Too Good for Me's head, and since he's so adept with words.
Alcibiades, did you want to talk or maybe drink?
Well, drink, of course. That's what we're here for. And since none of you are inebriated enough to run this romp, I'll have to take the reins. Now, let's find the biggest container and fill it with booze. Socrates should drink too. You know, I've tried so many times to discover what he's like when he's drunk, but I haven't succeeded yet. He's certainly no lightweight, but we're going to try anyway.
Okay. Listen, we've all made speeches about love, but you've only been drinking and you just got here. If you want, you can give a speech and then tell Socrates to do the same, since we are going in order.
Well, thanks, but it's hardly fair when none of you have had more than a drop to drink tonight. Besides, Socrates is deflecting. He's probably trash-talked me because he's jealous.
Certainly not.
Oh, the god of the sea, don't deny it. Besides, we know you. I wouldn't hit on anyone else with you around, you know.
Fine, then. Praise Socrates if you want to.
Are you daring me to?
Wait, what are you going to say?
Oh, just the truth.
Fine, if it's the truth, then by all means do.
If you've ever seen Socrates, you'll know that he's chiseled, strong, and beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Now, just like the satyr Marsyas, see, the thing is, he's cold and violent and insolent, just like Marsyas. Now, this satyr was the most charming guy on Olympus, captivating men with any song he sang. Even when others performed his music, it brought all of the boys to the nectar field. Now, Socrates may not be a singer, but he's a very sexy speaker. He is a wizard, and his words are spells. Even now, I'm enchanted. I can't help it. You know, I've spent a great deal of time like this, standing to his side, eating up his every word, but that's no way to live. I had to learn to tune out his siren song and move on. You see, I've realized that part of my love for him was for the fame associated of being with him, but that didn't make it any easier to leave. Some days I wish he was dead. Mostly, though, I just don't want to see him. I sneak through alleyways like a thief out of fear of running into him. Last week, I spotted him on the market by the produce. I broke into a sweat and I had to leave immediately. Basically, I have no clue how to deal with this man anymore.
Whatever.
Now, the next thing you need to know about Socrates is his taste. Imagine a 10 out of 10 male model. Strong cheekbones, washboard abs, rich hair. You know, Socrates is into none of these. In fact, he'd probably prefer the look of a potato than a handsome young man like myself.
Agathon, will you please put an end to this?
Socrates, let him speak. I want to hear what he has to say. Go on.
Now, despite this, I feel as if Socrates was into me and, you know, seeming to open up to me. And I thought, a famous old philosopher like Socrates interested in me, I have to make a move. I've decided that we'd exercise together. You know, I made sure that it was only the two of us. I figured I'd flex and he'd see what I was made of. After weeks of this, not a bit of progress. I tried a new tactic. I invited him to dinner as if we were already lovers. He eventually said yes. We ate dinner, and then he left. So I invited him over again. I got him talking late into the night and then suggested he could sleep over. Now this is where it gets spicy. Whoosh. Socrates, you up?
Yeah, I'm awake. Why?
Can I drop some thoughts on you?
Yeah, sure.
Socrates, I feel like we'd be perfect together. I want to be wise like you, and no one is better to help me with that than you.
Alcibiades, you must be special if you think that's true, and if you think that I'd make you a better person. You're trying to get something out of me, but what if I'm not the person for you? You should think about this some more. You're young. You don't know what you need in a partner.
Look, I said what I said, and I meant it too. Now it's up to you to decide if this is going to work out or not.
I mean, I guess you're right. How about we talk about it some more sometime soon? But maybe now we'll just figure out if we're good for each other.
Whoosh. I thought I had made an impression. But nothing else happened the rest of the night. It was as if we were only brothers. You can see how this bearded toga has continued to lead me on. Still, all I can do is admire his self-control. I've tried waving the bacon in his face like he was a hungry dog, but he never bit. He's put me in a lover's limbo. Now that I've thrashed the man for a while, I'll speak to his achievements. We served in the military together, and no man was tougher. Socrates either went days without swallowing a thing when there were no rations, or he surpassed all others in holding no liquor. He looked no worse when he was starved than when he was fed. Another time, the madman spent a whole day standing in a doorway. Presumably he was pondering something, but we'll never really know. Maybe he just forgot that he's a man like the rest of us and didn't care to move for a day. But finally, Socrates was recognized for saving my life on the battlefield. At the time, I also saw how he was unlike any other person that I'd ever met. Not only does he behave differently, but his words are the only ones that truly mean anything. This is my praise for him, but that sour senior will still hurt you. He'll lure you in until you pour your heart out, and he'll drink it down like he does his alcohol, sober and unaffected. Agathon, don't be a dummy. Take a look at him and see what he really wants.
If you were actually as drunk as you seem, you wouldn't have lied about your motive so well. But you are a liar, Alcibiades. We all know that you want Agathon and me to fight. You want me to love you, and if I don't love you, then you'd rather me not love anybody. You act like a good person, but I see through you, Alcibiades. I am no fool. Take your joke of a speech somewhere else. Agathon, don't let him persuade you to anything. He's making up everything.
Sure, Socrates. I'm sure he just wants to keep us even more separated from one another than do these screens. It won't make any difference. As long as the plague remains, we all have to stay socially distanced anyway.
Can intimacy be achieved through a screen?
Look at this, everyone. Even now, Socrates has to have the last word. Who cares about a man's feelings when you have logic to hold over everyone's head? At least let me praise Agathon for his victory at the cyber city Dionysia. That's what we're here for, isn't it?
No, Alcibiades. You just gave a speech, and it was about me. So let me give a speech to Agathon.
Really? No offense, Alcibiades, but the chance to be praised by Socrates just cannot be passed up.
Here we go again. When Socrates is around, it's impossible for anyone else to flirt with attractive young men. I'm not just going to sit here while Socrates preys on all the good-looking guests.
And just when it seemed like a fight was about to begin, another crowd of partygoers Zoom bombed the room. Finding Socrates distracted by Agathon and seeing that one of these new guests was even more attractive than Agathon, Alcibiades' mood suddenly brightened. The night wore on with more speeches, more drinking, more ladder climbing, and more of everything, except talk of love. Now, Socrates did sing Agathon's praises, but Aristodemus said he did not remember most of it because by that late hour, Aristodemus was falling asleep. Apparently, Socrates eventually put them all to sleep. And when he woke Aristodemus up to head home, everyone but Socrates was passed out.
That's it. All this talk from Aristides' servant, Cassandra, Phoenix, and everyone in between about what an epic party this was. How it was a legendary symposium that would be immortalized in history. How speeches would be remembered for all eternity. And that's how it ends? Everyone passed out but Socrates, who was still talking. I heard there were physical brawls and a clear victor in the metaphysical battle of love.
There was. Clearly, Socrates had the best speech.
What? Were you and I watching the same reenactment of your memory of Aristodemus' recollection of Agathon's party, which also mysteriously featured Diotima, who may or may not have been appeared as a figment of Socrates' memory?
Don't forget that steamy reenactment of Alcibiades' memory with Socrates.
Yeah, that was good. But I completely disagree. Socrates' speech was not the best. Not even the latter bit could be a speech worthy of my praise.
It is better to be Socrates dissatisfied than a fool satisfied.
I'm sure some of them agree with me.
Are you? Well, let's see. I have a proposal to end this discourse about these discourses on love. Athens was the birthplace of democracy, and they all live in a democracy. Well, about one as democratic as ours. Now, given our shared familiarity with voting, let's do this through a democratic process. Using the Zoom poll function, indicate the speaker whom you think gave the best speech on love. The speaker with the most votes wins philosophical bragging rights. I'm going to vote too.
Me too.
Go.
Stressful.
We have a winner, and the winner is Aristophanes.
Huh. Well, that was a great turnout. Certainly one for the books.
Listen, we can disagree about love. We can love to disagree. Either way, thank you for telling me everything you remember about what you heard about that epic virtual symposium.
And with that, we gave virtual fist bumps and parted ways.